everybody, welcome to Japanese History for Everyone. I'm Lucidity, and today we're going to be talking about one of the most disputed topics in Japanese history, a female shaman ruler from the 2nd century, and explore how her reign informs our understanding of Japanese history as a whole.
In the records of the Three Kingdoms, the Book of Wei tells the story of a people who dwelled on a mountainous island in the middle of the ocean. In the past, they had been comprised of over 100 communities, many of which sent envoys to the Han court. But by then, only 30 of their communities remained. And of these 30 communities, they had a man who ruled them, until the country fell into a period of war that lasted 70 to 80 years. That was until one day, a young woman enchanted the people with magic and sorcery, and was named their ruler. After becoming their ruler, she retreated to a large palace surrounded by towers and armed guards. She had 1,000 female servants, but only one man, and this man served her food and drink and acted as a medium of communication. In her stead, her younger brother ruled the country, handling all political matters. She sent a tribute to the Chinese court, consisting of 4 male slaves and 6 female slaves. The Chinese, considering her tribute and recognizing her kingdom, provided her a gold seal and named her a friend of the Chinese people. Many years later, this same queen would ask for help from China against a rival state, but by the time they had gone to help her, she had unfortunately passed away, and a great kofun had been erected to honor her. As her successor, a king was chosen, but the people did not obey him. This led to the violence and death of over 1,000 people. To end the hostilities, a relative of Himiko was chosen, a young girl named Io, a girl of only 13. She was made queen and peace was restored.
So there's one major problem. Our classical understanding of Japanese history derives from 2 places, the Kojiki, written in 712, and the Nihon Shoki, written in 720. The problem is, not only do neither of these 2 texts mention Pimiko, but they also don't mention 100 kingdoms, the 30 kingdoms that she ruled over, or even a place called Yamatai. So who is Pimiko, and how can we reconcile the Chinese texts that mention her with the Kojiki and the Nihon Shoki that informs our understanding of Japanese history?
Let's explore 3 scenarios. For the most part, Japanese historians have tried to reconcile Pimiko with figures that are found in the Nihon Shoki. The first is Empress Jingu, who is said to have reigned around the same time as Empress Pimiko. The second is Yamato Totohi Momoso Himemiko, the shaman aunt of Emperor Sujin. The third, Yamato Hime no Mikoto, daughter of Emperor Sunin, who is said to have founded Ise Shrine. And the fourth is a suggestion that perhaps she is a real figure who inspired the mythology of the goddess Amaterasu. However, none of the history or mythology surrounding these 4 women match what we know about the life of Pimiko. For that reason alone, it's highly improbable that she was any of these women at all.
So I don't agree with this approach, and let me explain why. The Nihon Shoki and the Kojiki blends mythology and history and then presents it as fact. But there's a very high chance that the information provided in both the Kojiki and the Nihon Shoki are highly exaggerated, if true at all. So let me say something that might be upsetting to some people. The first 9 emperors of Japan probably didn't exist. And the 10th one is debatable. And the ones who we think did exist probably existed on a different timeline than presented in both of those texts.
Let's take Empress Jingu for example. She's written to have reigned in the 200s, but there's evidence to suggest that she actually reigned somewhere closer to the 400s. So basically everything that happened in the Kojiki and Nihon Shoki prior to the 6th century, we can't actually say happened when they said it did. Based off of the evidence that we currently have, it's very likely that 100 to 200 years of history was spread out over a period closer to 500 to 600 years. One of the reasons that we know this is true is because the emperors prior to the 6th century all have unrealistically long lifespans. Emperor Sujin, the 10th emperor of Japan, is the first emperor that we can actually say probably did exist, even if we don't know the actual dates and for how long he did rule. The first emperor with verifiable dates is Emperor Kinmei, which is the first emperor of the Asuka period, ruling from 539 to 571.
So why would they do this?
Well, in order to have a better understanding, we need to look at the history around the time that the Kojiki and Nihon Shoki were written. 710 and 720 is in the Nara period. This period is preceded by a period known as the Taiko Reform. In 645, the Taiko reforms placed the emperor at the center of spiritual and political life, which means that at this time, the emperor would have wanted the Kojiki and the Shojiki to be written to show the emperor's power and strength. By creating a national history, they can create one identity for Japan and place the emperor at the center of that identity.
So if Pimiko is a real person that writers of the Nihon Shoki and the Kojiki did know existed, then who was she, and why was she written out?
Let's look at options 2 and 3. Option 2. Pimiko is a 2nd century ruler of a rival Japanese state. The Book of Wei mentions that Japan was divided into 100 states, and that Pimiko ruled the largest state, a group of 30. So it is possible that Pimiko's kingdom was overcome by another kingdom. Particularly, we can point to the period before she died, where she requested help from China to fight one of those rivals. This is also verified by at least one other case in which a kingdom received a seal from China. That kingdom is called Nakoku. We know that Nakoku existed between the 2nd and 4th century, but we don't know much of what happened after. Many have argued that perhaps Pimiko was the ruler of this country, and not of the Yamato that we associate with Japan today.
I actually do really like this suggestion, but then there's another one.
Perhaps the writers of the Nihon Shoki and the Kojiki purposely wrote out female leaders in order to promote a narrative of patrilineal succession descending directly from the gods. Follow me on this one. There's a good argument to say that at least for the period prior to the Asuka period, that men and women ruled together, a dual role, with one man in political power, such as Pimiko's brother, and a woman in a spiritual role, which would be Pimiko. Perhaps, when the Nihon Shoki was written, these women were written out, and only the men and their paternal line were included. It's possible that this was done because after the Taika reforms, the emperor wanted to show that they didn't need a woman to be the spiritual leader of Japan, because the emperor from there forward was going to be both the political and the spiritual leader. Thus, the Nihon Shoki needed to be written to legitimize that change.
So in the end, I kind of lean on possibility 2 or possibility 3. But then there's also a possibility that those two can be combined in some way. Perhaps a rival clan unified not only just those 30 states, but all 100. And perhaps after ascending as emperor of a unified Japan, they rewrote history to make it seem that Japan had been unified for 1,000 years prior, under one emperor and one unbreakable line. So that's it for today. Thank you for watching. I do want to say, please subscribe if you enjoyed this video. I will be uploading history video once every 3 weeks. Also, if you have any questions about what we discussed here, please write a comment in the comment section. I will be answering all questions that you have. If you have any suggestions for something you want to learn more about in the future, also please let me know and I'll be glad to make a video about that.